Berkley Powerbait flatworm, drop shot style. But we're more going to be talking about daily fish movements. And I mean, the Powerbait flatworm, I mean, it says enough. There's enough out there on it. It's an awesome drop shot bait. And I was struggling a little bit out here on this spot. And I was like, well, time for me to break out the secret weapon. And pulled out the flatworm. And you know what? The bait lasted a lot longer than I expected. You know, I rig it on that RoboWorm rebarb hook, and awesome hook, and that little bait keeper on it. Man, I didn't have the nose tear out of the baits or anything. And I rig it like Texposed, you know, or whatever. I'm just running the hook through the middle of it and sticking the point out because there's no weeds or cover, so I don't have to like Texas rig it or whatever. But yeah, so anyway, the daily fish movement, I did a chart at the end of the video. And so anyway, how I found these fish, and I felt really cool because this is the first time I've ever done this. Like, these fish were glued to the bottom out in 14, 15, 16 feet of water. And this was my first time ever seeing them on the graph and dropping down and catching them. And if I got around the right group of fish, I could get them to bite. And how I found them, you know, I was in this area and I knew there was fish there, and they weren't in the other spots I tried. And so I was like, well, I'm going to get up on top of this spot and really look, you know. There's my abattoir crappie, of course. And if I wasn't getting on top of them, I was catching crappie or pike. They didn't want the bait dragged. They didn't want it nothing. They didn't want it, you know, coming down towards them. They wanted that flatworm drop shot, and I had it about 15-inch leader length on the drop shot. 12-pound braid to 8-pound floral, and 7.1 Elliott rod, 3000 Shimano reel. Awesome setup. But yeah, so I'd get up on top of these fish and drop down on them, and man, there were some megas. And I was dropping down on fish, you know, for like the past week, or trying to, but it was always panfish. And I was like, man, those marks on the graph aren't bass, because they were big, but apparently not. And I noticed too, if there was like, I got a graph picture of it. If there was a few, like 5 fish in a row, they were more likely to bite. If there was a solo fish, I couldn't get them to bite what I thought was a bass. And even if they were like close to a general feeding area, like a break or a boulder or something, they would fire pretty quickly, you know, and I could catch one and then go back over to, like, let's say 10 feet off the break is where I was catching these ones. I could get back over to that area and catch them pretty good. But if I drifted way off, I couldn't get them. Even though they weren't like in a normal casting feeding spot, they were still generally close to the feeding spot instead of way off. So here I am videoing it, what I'm going to show you guys. And of course I get hooked up. So that's what I found, these little bumps. And I was like, man, I've been over this place so much. I know those aren't rocks. And there was like 5 of these in a row. Like, they were connected. They looked like ski moguls. And the first time I saw it, it didn't show up on the down scan. Just the, what is that, 2D or whatever. And that's what it looked like. And I saw 5 of them. And whenever I saw 5 like that, bam, I could drop straight down on them and within a minute, one would bite, and it was so cool. And like, I'm so used to catching crappies that all of a sudden when I felt some weight when I was doing this, I was like, oh, this is so cool. So cool. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I caught them that day. And then this is kind of part 4. So then I went back on my way in and ran that chatterbait pattern and stuck them pretty good again. And the pike too. But yeah, I was dropping down on these fish, and man, 4-pounders, high 4s, 4.5s. Super cool, super fun. New bite for me, you know. I'm learning as I go too, you know. And yeah. And it's like hard to tell. Some of these fish were a little bit darker and some of them were lighter, so it's like, man, how long has that bass been out that deep? Not that long. That was a toad too. Oh, fat back slouch. But yeah, leaves are changing. It's getting ready to be colder, hopefully soon. So hopefully the bite will pick up a little bit better, because this was a struggle fest out there today. You know, I had to really work for them. There was a lot more up shallow, but they weren't as big as these ones out there. Okay, so here's the spot I've been fishing with the drop shot. So the yellow is a big long point that comes out, and it, 4 feet at the top, and then it goes out to 17. And then the green is a big grass flat that had a mega school in it in July when the grass was there. And that's, from 4 to 8 feet is kind of the general area on that. And that's where I was catching them all with the spark shad and the 13-inch worm in those episodes. And so yeah, all that grass is gone, and the fish just kind of like disappeared. Like during August, some of them went under docks, and then some of them I'm sure went out deeper, not sure. But anyway, so on that Strike King KVD Dream Shot episode, the black, that's where I was catching them. I was putting the boat up on the yellow on the point and casting out into that 15-16 foot range out there, and then that's where I was catching them. And then on the episode 2 of it, the Jackal Rhythm Wag, which is a new bait, and they weren't biting out in the black spot, and I went out there and I didn't see any fish on the graph, and then I kind of just turned around and I cast it out to that edge of the point, and that's where they wanted it. They didn't want it dragging it up the point. They wanted it dragging down and parallel, so that's where I caught them that time. And then I went back out there and tried to do it again, seeing what's going on, and the red is where I caught them. They were on the outside of the point, 15 feet of water out there, and I was dropping straight down on top of them because they were so tightly grouped up. Anyway, that's the episode, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.